And we are back. What is up, you guys? Welcome back to the Split Decision Podcast, episode 3. We are literally doing this literally like a couple hours after arguably one of the biggest fights in Japan, the biggest fighter in Japanese boxing right now. I'm Alyas Blanco. My boy Nate Marrero, as always, is here with me. Nate, how you doing today?
I am very tired. I think I need a second coffee. But other than that, happy to talk boxing.
Yeah, I mean, I just finished my third, so like I
You
understand,
third?
dude.
Oh yeah, you do
Well,
yours.
I work overnight too, so like it's not just about the fights. But for those who don't know, Naoya Inoue actually just fought early this morning, very early, around 6, 7 a.m. The card started, and it was a really good card. Kind of a surprising result as Naoya Inoue defeated TJ Doheny via stoppage, but it wasn't no regular stoppage. It was actually TJ Doheny's decision to stop the fight after apparently an apparent back injury. A very interesting performance from Inoue. He kind of looked a little bit human in this fight. He wasn't able to get his rhythm going from the jump, and it started looking like he was about to put on the onslaught towards the sixth and seventh round. But unfortunately, Doheny suffered that injury, so we couldn't see the full end product of what Inoue was getting into. Nate, give me your initial thoughts on this fight.
It was a decent fight. I mean, it was like Doheny gave him a lot of problems, with his movement, his feints. He was landing some decent shots too. He just didn't have quite the power to hold him off. But like in the middle rounds, you could see like Inouye's trying to like track him down, and he had to, it wasn't, and he had to work for it. But by like the sixth round, once he started to like stick to his jab and go to the body, you could see Doheny start to slow down a little bit. I felt like I felt like the stoppage was close for Inoue, and then like right as it never got to that point because it seemed like Doheny took a bad step, and then like something happened with his lower back, and they had to stop the fight because of it. But overall, I mean, it's tough because like Inoue had been on quite the run lately, so it's hard to stay that hot for that long. At some point, you're going to come back down to earth, and this felt like that kind of performance.
Yeah, but do you think now? This is a curious question. I personally don't think this, but a lot of people are gonna kind of make assumptions and stuff. Do you think he was kind of underestimating TJ Doheny? I mean, he's 37 years old, coming off a two-fight win streak. Nothing very impressive compared to other Naoya Inoue resumes.
Mhm.
Do you think he really underestimated him in this bout?
I don't think so. I think he got the best version of Doheny, and I mean, he was a southpaw that just kept on moving, and southpaws can be very tricky. I know it's what this is second straight, at least second straight southpaw he fought. He fought Luis Neri in his last fight. It can just be very tricky. You can see their front feet were like, getting, they're constantly fighting the front foot battle. Doheny's very crafty. He knows how to survive, and he wasn't really giving Inoue too much to work with. So it was just something where it was just it's a tough stylistically. Wasn't an easy matchup, and I think that just gave him some problems. It took him a while to figure out. By the time he was about to figure them out and potentially get impressive stoppage win, Doheny got hurt. I mean, I wouldn't look too much into it. Everybody has their, you can't be like topping your performance, eating performance after performance. At some point, you got to slow down. And this was, to me, it felt like that more than it was him underestimating Doheny.
Yeah, I definitely agree because like when you're on that white hot run that Noya Inoue has been on for not only like the past like year, but like maybe arguably the past like 4 years since
Yeah.
the pandemic started. I mean, he's been on a run. There's gonna be some points where you're not gonna have. It's gonna be hard to live up to each performance when you keep getting better and better and making them look more and more spectacular. And I think to your point, Doheny gave him a lot of looks. I mean, he was changing levels with his movement like from the start. And the one thing that I think kind of impressed me about Doheny in this fight was his timing because we know that in a way is one of the best when it comes to timing, especially counter punching. But
Mhm.
what Doheny did really well in this fight was that he was able to move and kind of strike off the break whenever they were kind of getting off the break in the distance or in transition. That's when Doheny would strike and would catch Inoue off guard, which you know that's one thing we've been talking about with Inoue is that he's so good offensively. he never had to really prove anything on defense, on the defensive side. And here, I mean, you kind of saw that his defense was tested, and he really had to, you know, he really had to read Doheny throughout rounds 1 through 4 because he really couldn't get a rhythm going because he couldn't figure him out at one point. And that's very props to Doheny because he was putting on the performance of his life prior to him, getting hurt.
Yeah.
Um, with the back injury, I know you touched on it before. Timothy Bradley said it was a body shot that kind of caused it. But
Yeah.
I kind
I
of
don't
think that
know.
it was kind of more of he kind of stepped the wrong way and tweaked
Yeah.
his back. What did you think?
I thought he just took a bad step, and I don't think it had anything to do with it. Because he also, I think this helped him a lot, which I don't understand why the referee didn't say anything. His trunks were like up to his chest. Like if I'm
Yo,
a Inoue, I'm a good
he looked
body
like a
puncher.
1920s
Yeah.
fisticuffs fighter. He
Yeah.
looked like he was fighting like this, like let me at him,
Yeah,
let me at
no,
him.
freaking his trunks were up to his freaking nipples. Like I don't understand. Like that's you should be. You have to show your belly button. Like that's the rule. So like especially like if I'm against a good body puncher, if the referee's not going to enforce it, like what, friggin', of course I'm going to have my trunks high. So but yeah, I thought it was something where he took a bad step. It wasn't like something. I feel like if it was a body shot, he would have went down
I
differently.
definitely don't think so either, and I definitely think he put on the besides the knockdown that Luis Neri had in the last fight against Inoue, he put on the best performance in the past a couple years, I think.
Yeah.
Out of all Inoue's opponents, I'm talking about from the Stephen Fulton fight to now, Inoue or Doheny really had the best performance. I think he gave Inoue the most trouble, and that could just
Mhm.
be stylistically. He was just so awkward for the
Yeah.
monster. I think Inoue really couldn't get the timing down because he was throwing at such awkward times, and he was throwing at like he's so long, so he was throwing a lot of long punches,
Hmm.
and I think that really gave him the edge like when he was in rhythm. But obviously, in a way, started to pick the pace up, and you saw Doheny in rounds 5 and 6 start kind of getting a little more flat-footed, a little more heavy, and you saw kind of like an adrenaline dump in his punches. You kind of seen him not enough pop in them anymore, and it looked like it was going to be. It looked like it was going to be the beginning of the end once Inoue started, getting into his rhythm. But unfortunately, we were robbed of that. But
Hmm.
what'd you think?
Yeah, no. End of the sixth round, he was starting to land some big shots. You could see like Doheny was getting cornered more easily, more caught up on the ropes. It felt like it was just a matter of time. And obviously it ended up being that he got hurt rather than getting stopped. Um,
Right. And I'm gonna bring this up on my screen right now. I'm gonna bring up the CompuBox stats from this fight because it kind of shows an interesting picture. You can't really see it because it's kind of slow, it's kind of low, but I'll kind
a
of read
little
it off to
small.
you. So in a way threw about or landed about 35% of his total punches, whereas Doheny landed about 27%, but Doheny landed more body punches, about 5 more% than in a way. And I think we saw that in the fight. He was really changing levels well, and he was really targeting the body, especially early in the fight. As for jabs, I mean, Inoue was throwing a lot of jabs, or it looked like Inoue was throwing a lot of jabs, but he wasn't landing much. But neither was Doheny because Doheny only landed about 3.5 jabs in this fight. Power punches, obviously, in a way, kind of took it out from there. I mean, every punch he throws basically is a power punch at this point, landing nearly 50% from there. Nate, what do you think? Do you think these CompuBox stats really paint the picture of how the fight was?
Yeah, there was a lot of posturing. There's a lot of feinting too. Dehaney fainted, and then he fainted some more. When he was done fainting, he fainted again. You know, it was just like, and it wasn't really like I felt like a lot of punches were landing on the gloves. Like you could hear it, but there weren't like too many like flush shots that like caught your eye. Like they were like very sparing up until like I know he's run at the end of the sixth round. And Doheny landed some decent like eye popping shots too. Whenever he like split into his timing, he landed a couple good straight lefts, but. Yeah, I mean, I felt like this kind of painted the picture of the fight. There's no real sustained offense at any point, up until like the end of the sixth round.
Yeah, I definitely think like you really saw like the clear flush shots in rounds 5 and 6. I mean, they were getting into their rhythm. Doheny, I mean, was touching him from rounds 3 and 4. He was touching him. They weren't like crazy shots. They weren't stuff that
Yeah.
was kind of making, in a way, respect the power enough.
Mhm.
Some shots, even I think there was a moment in the fight, maybe at the end of round 4, maybe beginning of round 5, where Doheny sat down on a couple of his shots, kind of through a combination where he sat down and in a way felt that power and realized he could just walk through him. And I
Yeah.
think that's where the kind of the landscape of the fight changed, is when he felt that and he kind of realized like, oh, I can
Yeah.
withstand this.
This is
And
yeah, this is nothing.
I think that's kind of what happened. And but like hats off to Doheny because a lot of people wrote him off like
Yeah.
prior to this fight. I mean, because he lost to Michael Conlon a few years ago, and we know how Michael Conlon's career has gone since that fight.
Yeah.
So like he really showed like in potentially his last world title fight that he was a true contender in this one. But
Yeah.
we go on from this fight and we have to look forward to what's next. So the question I'm going to ask is what's next for Naoya Inoue? I mean, there's talks that he's going to fight in December, maybe in the US. What is next, Nate?
I think it should be MJ Akhmadaliev. I feel like that's really like the biggest name left for him at 122. I believe he's the mandatory. Um, I want
For what,
which one of his
WBA?
four? I think WBA. I know Eddie Hearn posted about it. I mean, that's probably. I mean, he's another southpaw who could be a little tricky. And he's got much more like offensive punch to him. Like Doheny's much more of a slick, like stick and move. Try to counter you and kind of like stink it out. Whereas like that's I don't think that's going to be the problem against MJ. I think it'll be tricky, but we'll see.
Yeah,
I feel
I
like that
really
fight should clearly be next.
I mean, personally, I think that's the toughest fight in the division left for him. I
Yeah,
mean, again, very tricky like Doheny, but he doesn't have that awkward timing. But what he does have is better movement, and he's more active volume wise, and he has that Soviet style, which in a way has not faced before yet. He hasn't
mhm,
fought a Soviet type of fighter. I mean, he's fought a slick American. He fought Stephen Fulton. He's fought a real tough Eastern fighters from Eastern Asia. I mean, Marlon Tapales fits that bill. He's fought really slick Europeans. TJ Doheny. He's fought like really gritty ones. I think I think the MJ Akmadalia fight is an intriguing one. But
yeah,
realistically though, I think the next guy up for Naoya Inoue is Sam Goodman. He was supposed to fight
yeah.
Inoue
It
on
seems
this
that was supposed
card.
to be next.
He's the IBF mandatory. He was supposed to fight on this card, but he turned it down. I don't know what it was. I think he took a fight beforehand. I don't know what, but this fight didn't materialize. This should be the next fight up because they made a whole big deal about it at the Tokyo Dome in Inoue's last fight, and
Yeah,
Goodman was calling him out saying, "Oh, you take the fight or vacate," and he's the one who didn't take the fight. So I
yeah.
think
That's
that has to be next because
uh
I mean it's either Akhmadaliev or MJ. Either way, I think it's going to be Goodman because the next fight Inoue takes is most likely going to be in December, probably the New Year's Eve card
yeah,
in Tokyo. The travel from Australia to Japan easier than the one from Uzbekistan to Japan, I think. I don't know. I could be wrong. My geography, I'm not a major in that.
yeah.
But
No.
I think either of those options would be good. And I mean, we'll see. I think all I know is that he's not going to be at super bantamweight much longer.
Yeah, he should.
But from super bantamweight to bantamweight, a division that in a way already conquered, we're talking about the co-main event. So ESPN only televised two fights, the main event and the co-main event in this card. And the co-main event to kick off the show was Yoshiki Te defending his newly crowned WBO bantamweight title against Daigo Hiiga in a 12-round banger. This fight was exciting. I mean, if you were able to watch it, if you were able to get up at 5:45 in the morning and watch this fight, it was it was a neck and neck fight from the jump. I mean, these guys for 12 rounds were really were really putting it out there. They really didn't. There wasn't anyone that really pulled apart to get a clear victory in the fight for a while. In the 11th round, Daigo Higa actually knocked down Takei, his first knockdown in his pro boxing career, and it it kind of sparked something into K because in the 12th round, he literally went for the kill, and that kind of made the difference in the fight. If you look at the scorecards after the fight, 115, 112, and then two 114, 113s. Literally, I think that 12th round was the deciding factor for Takei's win. I think when you talk about Yoshiki Takei, a guy who a couple years ago was a world champion kickboxer, and now fast forward to 2024, he is a a world champion in one of the toughest divisions in boxing today. Nate, what do you think about Takei as a champion? What do you think about this win? I mean, it was a tough, gritty win. Give me your thoughts on it.
I mean, he's only in his 10th pro fight. I know he had the K1 boxing or kickboxing career, but to go through 12 rounds in a fight like this and just your 10th fight and to pull it out of the fire in a 12th round, I mean, that's super impressive. That says a lot about him and where he's potentially heading, and just to have to understand where the fight is, like going into the final round, like, hey, I got to do this. And I mean, literally the difference in the fight, like he won by a point, and it's something where I think it's something he could be better from it too. It's good to go like these types of challenges, because eventually if he gets in unification bouts, or runs into like, big time challengers, moves up in weight, this is the kind of experience you can lean on and improve from. So like super impressive stuff by him.
Yeah. Yeah, and in this fight, I mean, he started off hot. So I would say like in the first half of the fight, Takei was really, kind of fighting his style of boxing, kind of fighting at range, using that long reach and fighting real long. But as we've seen in the fight against Jason Maloney, he started to fade towards the end of to the later rounds, and he was getting real like Daigo Higa was hitting him was hitting him real solid throughout, hitting him with multiple combinations, and you kind of saw Takei fade. But then once he got knocked down, it was like a flip switch, and that's one thing that is very rare to find in boxing. Someone who has heart like that, because he realized he was going to be down on the cards. Like he was either going to be down on the cards or it's going to be a tough fight. That 12th round, I think, one of the gutsiest performances I've ever seen. Up there with Teofimo's 12th round with Vasily Lomachenko. It was
Right.
all hard. I think that was all
Mhm.
hard because he was like condition wise, he was pretty much battered. Like
Yeah.
he was tired. He was not. I mean, he was just going off fumes there, and I
Mhm.
think it was an impressive fight. It was an exciting fight. What a way to get your first defense of your title. So let's look at the CompuBox stats if we can, and to really get a sense of how this fight was. So if we go to the CompuBox stats again, small numbers, it's okay. Um, it was kind of more on Higa's side. So on total punches, Higa threw an average about 43 punches, whereas Takei threw about 45. But Higa landed around 10% more than him, was a little more accurate, and was very accurate on landing body shots, landing at 43%, whereas Takei landed at 28%. Not only that, but it was very neck and neck in the like with them throwing the jabs, kind of setting up stuff. But where the real difference was, which I was surprised about, because Takei, who's known as a finisher, he landed less power shots, whereas Higa landed about 46%. Takei landed about 36%. So on the CompuBox stats, if we're just looking at numbers by himself, you could say that Daigo Higa should be the WBO bantamweight champion right now. But if you look at the fight itself, and especially that last round, you can make the argument that Takei stole it. But again, that's why I always say don't always count like look at the numbers. It's not all about that. That fight was fun. I think it was a tough test for Yoshiki Takei. I think Daigo Higa earned himself another title fight. Maybe not against Takei, but he'll get one down the road.
Yeah.
So my question after this victory, is not about Takei, but it's about the division as a whole. What's next for the bantamweight division? Because ever since Naoya Inoue vacated all the belts, this has been a wide open division. Oh, a division, by the way, that's been dominated by Japan. There's 4 Japanese world champions in this division alone, and it's headlined by Junto Nakatani and Takuma Inoue. So, Nate, what is next for this division?
You hope you can start getting some unification bouts. Hopefully, if you keep on, if Inoue's next fight in Japan, maybe you can put them on the undercard, or maybe they can just sell out on their own. Like you never know. But like whenever you have like 4 champions, 4 really good champions, I mean, that's something where you just want to. I mean, it's any division. You want to see the champions fight each other. You want to see the best of the best. Go against each other and find out who is the top dog. So hopefully that's next. Wherever, however they match up. I'd probably favor Nakatani to come out on top, but we don't know until they fight. So hopefully that's next for them.
Yeah, and so what I brought up here is the Ring Magazine top 10 rankings in bantamweight. I mean, obviously, rankings are subjective, but I believe the Ring Magazine is the one that's the most objective out of all the sanctioning bodies and
Yeah.
all the rankings in boxing. So at number 1, you have the WBC champion Junto Nakatani, which you just mentioned should be at number 1. I mean, his performances have shown you that. At
Yeah.
number 2, you have Ryosuke Nishida, who beat Emmanuel Rodriguez for the IBF belt, and that fight was really good. And Emmanuel Rodriguez is a guy that really hard to beat, really tough
Yeah.
guy, has always been a top contender in these lower weight divisions. So beating him was a big deal. Number 3, Takuma Inoue, Naoya's little brother. I think ever since winning that belt, he's kind of put on some impressive performances. He's earlier this year he stopped what's his name, Jerwin Ancajas with a body shot. He's not known as a power puncher, but the fact that he got a stoppage this year, I mean, it puts him in the top 3. And then obviously Takei, defending his belt today, he's at number 4. But even then, you look at those next 3 that are in line, those are some tough challengers. Nate, can we possibly see, if all the stars are aligned, could we see a tournament?
Oh, you'd have to. I mean, a Super Six tournament coming back for this would be amazing. You could just stage all those fights in Japan. So that would be. If there was a time to bring that back, I don't know if it would ever come back. But
This
if
would
there
be
was
the
ever a
perfect
time to
time.
do it, and
This, this
if there was ever a division to do it, you know, right now this would
well,
be up near the top.
think about it, like all the world champions are in Japan, and not only that, Emmanuel Rodriguez, well known, fights in
Yeah,
Japan often. Jason Maloney fights in Japan. Alexandro Santiago fought Junto Nakatani in Japan. And like if we look even a little more down, Saya Satsumi, a guy that I think his brother Hayato, top prospects. Again, if we look at this, it's one of those divisions where a tournament could most likely happen. That's what I
yeah,
think. I think a tournament
mhm,
could most likely happen because all the stars are aligned, where all the business, all the major business can just be done in house. Um,
yeah.
I think honestly, it's a very, very, very interesting. I think it's a very interesting idea. I hope it happens, but the world of boxing, we never know. But
Yeah, I know.
there's
Boxing always seems
there
to
was a
find a way to get in its own way.
yeah, dude. But like, dude, just imagine a tournament in boxing, a pound for pound tournament in boxing. Like that's just, I miss the World Boxing Super Series because that's what I want. I want the best fighting the best.
Yeah,
And yeah, that's really what I want. But besides those 2 fights that were televised, there was 2 other fights that I want to touch on real quick. We're not going to get too big into them. Just want to, say the results. Andy Hirioka defeated everyone's favorite grandpa, Ismael Barroso, stopping him in the 9th round, improving to 24-0. Hirioka, a an up and comer in in the junior welterweight division. Uh, I haven't seen much of him, but after this fight, I mean, granted, Barroso, his age and stuff, but the performance was very impressive.
yeah,
He was able to get a lot of he was able to get his hands off fairly frequently in this fight. And after the fight, he actually called out newly crowned WBA champion Jose Valenzuela. I think that'd be an interesting matchup because Valenzuela is not gonna. I mean, Valenzuela can crack too,
Yeah.
but what we saw in his last fight against Pitbull Cruz is that he's very slick too, and it'll be an interesting dynamic to see if Hirioka can deal with that. So
Mhm.
I mean, that was one fight that I was looking at this morning, and another one was Jin Sasaki defeating Camille Bala, stopping him in the seventh round. So he improves to 18-1-1. And we always talk about Japanese boxers, but it's always the lower weight divisions. This guy's at welterweight, and he's already in the Ring Magazine top 10. You know, it's very rare that you see top Japanese boxers, like frequently at least, in the higher weight divisions when you go more up in the divisions. And I think he's a guy that could be a serious contender in a division where it's kind of wide open and it's a little thin now in welterweight,
Mhm.
especially with all the big names kind of moving up to 154. 147 is kind of wide open. So
Mhm.
those are a few results that I wanted to pinpoint before we move on to our different subject, because I think they deserve some love, and they had some impressive performances. But now we got to get to the fights from over the weekend, because we didn't get to do a post fight show for that, and part of me really wishes we did, because Diego Pacheco, man, what he was able to do to Maciej Sulecki, I was thoroughly impressed with him. I think he's the real deal. Stopping him in the sixth round with a beautiful body shot, improving to 22-0. Nate, I'm gonna let you kind of dissect this fight. Give me your thoughts, because this guy right here, at what, 23 years old, he
Yeah.
already looks like a vet.
Yeah, he's super impressive. I mean, his ability to manage range, and he was starting to, get find it. He landing some big right hands, and it was just something. I remember we were actually talking on the phone while watching. I was like, if he could just, 'cause I think he rocked him at the end of the fifth round. I was like, if he could just go to the body, he could like really soften him up some more. And then sure enough, he caught him with the left hook to the liver, and that was all she wrote. I mean, no one had done that to Selecki before. Like his only two losses to Jacobs and Demetrius Andrade were by decision. So for
Yeah,
him, I know it's a weight class up, but still, I mean, he looked very cerebral. There were a couple things defensively I think he could prove on. He moved straight back a little bit too much, but like in the middle of the fight, you could see he started to get off at an angle, and then he started to avoid more shots. So for a young fighter to like that to make those kind of like in ring adjustments in the middle of a fight is super impressive, man. I mean, he belongs right up there. He should be if he doesn't get a title shot next, or maybe not a title shot, because obviously Canelo has all the belts, and we'll see what shakes out of that. But he deserves a big fight next. I know they Eddie Hearn said he wants to see him fight Jaime Munguia. First of all, Munguia's in a tough fight in his next fight, so who knows if
yeah,
he even gets past that. Bazinian, right?
yeah. Banzanian.
But, but yeah. So yeah, but but I mean, Pacheco looks like the goods, man. This was his best performance to date, and it's only up from
100%.
here for him.
I definitely think, and with Diego Pacheco, believe it or not, Nate, Diego Pacheco's ranked number 4 in the Ring Magazine at super middleweight, which is fairly higher than I thought he was
Mhm.
at the division. But obviously, with so much turnover in that division, with Benavidez and Morel moving up to 175, a lot of people saw a big jump up in their rankings.
Yeah.
A fight that I really want to see with him, and I think would be a tough test for both boxers, would be against Christian and Billy.
Hmm.
I think if you're looking at fighters to fight for the title next, those two guys, I think, deserve to the title shots the most, based off not only their rankings, but pretty much their body of work. But they're just one fight away from that. And I think
Yeah.
this fight would be the fight. And it'd be a contrast in styles, with Mbili, kind of being that bruiser, fighting on the inside, kind of just trying to muscle his way and outwork you. And Diego Pacheco, the real technician, the real pure boxer, kind of, playing chess and kind of, reading you and kind of using your weaknesses or using your strengths against you, in a sense. So that, I think, would be an interesting fight. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think the Munguia fight, it is interesting, but it's only interesting to sell tickets to me. It's not
Yeah.
something that I'm like real enticed by, if that makes sense. Not
No.
saying I not saying that Haime Mori is a bad fighter because I definitely think he is a world class fighter, but he's already fighting someone that I think is going to be a tough test for him. So I don't want to see that. But moving on, there was more fights. There was another contender that was in action last Friday, and that was Elijah Pierce. He actually beat Jose San Martin by decision, improving to 20-2. Listen, Nate, this guy right here, he fights in Naoya Inoue's division, which is what super bantamweight.
Yes, you're
He's the
Brandon.
highest, aside from Cool Boy Stephen Fulton, who's not even in the division anymore. I don't think he's the highest rated American. Where do you think? How close is he to a title shot?
Oh, he might be just one fight away, I would think. I mean, well, he's ranked third by the WBA. He's also in the top 10 in the IBF and the WBO. So I would think, I mean, he's knocking on the door. If he can get like one more like solid win or something like that, it's something where a title shot isn't out of the question.
Yeah, and I like, and I'm gonna share my screen again because I think this really will kind of paint the picture of how close he is and how interesting it is in at super bantamweight. So this is the rankings right now. Obviously, Inoue's at the top. Like I said, Stephen
Oh,
Fulton
look it
is
up.
number one technically, but the only issue with him is that he's moving up to featherweight his next fight, so he's not even in there no more. And if you scroll all the way down, at number 9, you see the next best American in the division, and that's Elijah Pierce. Um, I think the only thing that's stopping him from kind of getting a title shot right away is the fact that there's not a lot of pool for American fighters in those divisions because bantamweight, the lower weight classes are dominated by Asia. So it's,
Mhm.
it's dominated by the eastern part of the world. But Elijah Pierce, especially coming from a newly made promotion in overtime boxing, is making some noise and he's kind of putting them on the map. So, you know, I think you might be only like one or two fights away from a real title shot. What do you think?
Yeah, I would say one, maybe two. But I mean, he's what third by WBA. So if it's
Yeah.
something where after if let's say Inoue fights MJ Akhmadaliev, it could be something where either A, he becomes the next mandatory for Inoue, or if Inoue vacates, he could be in line to fight for a vacant
Mhm.
belt. So I mean,
Yeah.
he's not far off at all.
A good fight. I would like to see an interesting fight. John Riel Casemiro. Maybe not in the top 10, but a fight between those two, I
Yeah,
think would be a banger.
yeah, he has
But
some name value too.
Oh,
Casemiro.
100%.
Yeah,
Of course. And he's a former world champion at bantamweight, not super
mhm.
bantamweight, but at bantamweight. So beating a former world champion,
Yeah,
always good for the resume.
it'd be the best win of his career
Yeah. So we
easily.
talked about the states. Now let's talk about down under because Nikita Zoo last Wednesday stopped Coin Monzudier in the ninth round, improving to 10-0 with 8 knockouts, man. Listen, Costa Zoo has some really good genetics because he produced two sons that have God-given heavy hands, man. And I think in the long run, I think Nikita Zoo might be the better boxer out of the two brothers, out of him and Tim Zoo, because the way that this guy fights, very similar. Whereas he likes to get into like a real slugfest. And if you watch this fight, it was probably like a fight of the year contender. Like they were just going in on each other. I think Nikita Zoo has a little more power than Tim.
Mhm.
And the only thing that is stopping him from being the better brother right now is just some fine tuning. I think
Yeah.
once he's polishes up his game, he's going to be an instant world champion, I think.
Yeah, he's also much earlier into his career, so it's something just like with the experience and stuff like that. And the more he gets tested, the more he can add to his game. It's clear that punching people in the face runs in runs in the family and
Dude,
doing it
I
quite well.
know.
So I mean, he's a something. I mean, he's going to be properly trained and be ready for these next tests that are upcoming for him.
Yeah, and you want to know something? He's what he right now. He's in the same division as his brother, right? He's in the same division as his
Yeah.
brother, but he's 26 years old, man. He's 26
Hmm.
years old, and he's gonna get bigger. So there's a chance that
Yeah.
we see him at middleweight, maybe super middleweight. I think junior middleweight is not going to be the division where he dominates. I
Yeah.
think maybe middleweight might be, especially because that division is a lot more open.
It
I
is.
mean,
Yeah. After
and there's
Janny
not a
back.
lot.
Yeah.
and there's not a lot of like full name value there. So if he's able to go up a division and kind of dominate, I mean, he might put butts to seats if I'm being honest. Like
Yeah,
the way he fights, the last name that he has,
yeah,
he could be a problem. He could be a problem, and I think honestly, he is he is the leader of this new wave of Australian boxers.
mhm,
Australia tends to, for some reason, every few years they kind of put out all these prospects or kind of put out all these up and coming guys. I mean, a few years ago it was Tim Zoo leading the charge with Cambosis and the
yeah,
Maloney's right behind him, and now you're seeing like Liam Paro, or Nikita Zoo, and then a guy that you might not know, Alex Winwood, who's fighting this Saturday. They're starting to make their come up. So again, don't sleep on Nikita Zoo. If you're able to watch him, if you have a VPN and can watch Australian boxing, he's someone that I would really look at, dude. So yeah, that's what
yeah,
I think. But dude, I think these fights, I mean, I can't believe we actually did a post-fight show right after the fights.
yeah. Yeah,
I'm
we're
actually
we're
kind of
making
flabbergasted by
progress
that.
here. Yeah, we're
Oh
we're
my
making
gosh, I know. We're
eventually once
about
we pull in millions of views and millions of dollars. No, I'm
Oh
kidding.
my
But,
gosh,
yeah,
bro. At some point we're gonna start posting every day. Oh my
yeah,
god.
hopefully, yeah, and hopefully I can
Hopefully.
afford a pair of
Oh my
AirPods I can
gosh.
fit in my ear without having to constantly fudge with them.
Yeah. Eventually I can get some different color instead of these pink ones, but on a budget right now.
Yeah, no, we'll, broke post-grad college students,
Hey,
eventually.
hey,
One day.
aspiring boxing analyst. But
Yeah,
let's get to
eventually.
the shorts, bro. Let's get to
Yeah.
the shorts.
Alright, that's
All
a
right,
yeah,
so
let's
this
nail that.
so this this week we're gonna blind rank. We're blind ranking 5 boxers in different weight divisions, and Nate and I have picked one division to blind rank
Yeah.
each other
We
with.
didn't tell each
So
other either ahead of time, so this is
yeah, we didn't tell
completely
each other.
off
So
the cuff.
this is gonna be off the cuff. So I'm gonna let Nate go first because I
Okay.
always go first with these shorts. So I'm gonna let
Yeah.
him go first. I'm gonna be a
So,
gentleman. So
alright.
Nate, what
I
division do we
I
have today?
appreciate it. I went with, since we talked about Diego Pacheco, I went with super middleweight. So gonna rank these guys. I didn't include Canelo because he has all the belts. So I felt like it was kind of yeah. But here are 5 other guys that are contenders. Vying potentially, and one that does may or not have a big fight up next. But yeah, so
Okay, let's
I'll
start.
go with the first one. Let's go with why not? Let's go with Diego Pacheco. Where would you rank him in your top 5?
Okay. He's number two. I think he's
Number
number two. I think
Ooh,
in terms of
number
boxing,
2.
yeah, no, in terms of boxing, in terms of like his skill set and where
Mhm.
I could see him going, he has a chance to be a dominant world champion. Whatever division
Yeah.
he dominates, I think he is someone that could really dominate a division.
Mhm.
His boxing skill is some of the purest I've ever seen, but I've seen as of recently from these up and coming guys. So
Yeah.
he's number two.
Especially for a 23-year-old. He's trained by Jose Benavidez, David Benavidez's dad. You could just tell he's super well
Yeah, dude.
schooled. He knows how to manage range. I remember there was an exchange at one point, Sulecki, when it's like he could have went in and potentially like smothered himself, but like no, he stayed at range where he could punch and just he's wise beyond his years from what I've seen, and continuing to see his ascension is going to be fun.
Yeah, I'm excited because after this last performance, I'm excited for what's next. I'm excited to follow the rest of his
Yeah,
career.
yeah, it
So who's
should be.
next?
I'm gonna go with Jaime Munguia. Where would you rank him?
Oh man, okay, this is hard
Yeah, this
because
is yeah. You don't know where I'm going next with this.
yeah, I don't know where you're going next because part of me wants to put him four, but I don't know I don't know who the
Yeah,
next 3 guys are.
I'm not telling you.
Yeah, I know you're.
It's
Oh my gosh!
good.
All
These
right, so
AirPods are
part
pissing me off. Holy crap!
I'm gonna say three. I'm gonna say three. I think
Number
he's middle of
3.
the. I think in terms. I don't know who you have, but if we're talking a top five, Jaime Munguia is a middle of the road contender at
Yeah.
168. I think that his best was at middleweight. He was the
Mhm.
best at middleweight, and he wasn't even the top middleweight at his best.
Yeah.
But he is a formidable contender, and he can really bring the best out of anyone, and he can beat some of the big contenders at super middleweight. I mean, we saw it with John Ryder. It's just when you go up to that upper echelon, it seems like Jaime Munguia is just short of that.
Yeah. He was kind of like because he's also so we're starting to learn a lot more about him because at 160 he was kind of protected. I think that's
Yeah,
something I mean we can say it now. Like he was a little they brought him up like he was like a champion, but I was still kind of like a prospect, where like they
yeah.
were like trying to like be very careful with him. And now he's taking these big fights and it'll be interesting to see. I'm glad he has the talent, it's something we're just gonna see when he does fight those top guys at 168.
Yeah, I think this fight against Eric Banzanian is going to really test to see if Jaime Munguia is the real deal because
Yeah.
ever since I think it was his resume has since been Deryanchenko, John
John Ryder.
Ryder,
And
Canelo, and now Banzanian. Those are
yeah.
all content.
Those
Those
are
were all
top
contenders,
fights, yeah.
and those are all at I think super middleweight at this point.
Yes.
So you know we're you know we're seeing a real different Jaime Munguia. So I don't want. So a lot of people have been saying that he doesn't fight anybody, but he's fought literally
He's
tough
turned the
guys
page, yeah.
these last four fights.
Mhm.
But yeah, he's number three. I think he's in the middle for me. What's next?
Okay, I'm gonna go with Christian and Billy. Where
He's
would
five.
you rank? 5? Oh,
He's
wow,
five.
that was really quick.
He's
Wow.
five. He's
Dude,
five.
I barely got his name out. Wow.
He's five.
Like,
And the
oh, man.
reason why is because I think it's more of the hype. And this is crazy because I was kind of hyping him up. But after
Yeah.
seeing, after seeing his performance against Sergey Derenchenko, who was injured, and he wasn't able to get him out, I realized he's not a real power puncher, but
Yeah.
more of a strong fighter.
Uh-huh.
When he fights guys who have real punch resistance, it's really hard to take. It gets harder for him to take him out. Granted, Derenchenko is a tough guy, doesn't get stopped. So like
Yeah.
I understand that,
Uh-huh.
but like when I saw him fight, he only had one game plan, and when that game plan didn't wasn't successful, he went back to the same exact game plan.
Yeah.
So
No,
I
he's
need to see more from him to really put him higher up in my rankings. Granted, he is number one at 168 with the Ring Magazine, but he's number five with me. So I
yeah.
have number one and number four left. What's next?
Okay, I'm gonna go with Osles Iglesias. Where would you
He's
put
number one.
him? Number
He's
1?
number one.
Wow.
He's number one. I
Wow.
can't change the rankings.
That's
It's blind
yeah, no,
rankings.
you can't. Yeah, no. It's something where
He's
I'm obviously number one. I wouldn't put him number one now, but like potentially, like if a couple more fights, I could easily see him being like a champion at 168 pounds.
Now, what I said about Billy, it was the exact opposite with Osles Iglesias. I wasn't really sold on him, even though he had like a knockout where a guy was convulsing. I wasn't sold on him because he looked like a lanky fighter who had really good upper body movement, but his lower body movement or his footwork didn't match it. And then I saw his last performance, and I was like, dude, this guy is like a traditional, like what Cuban
Modern
style
day Cuban
fighter.
style, yeah,
Yeah, a traditional Cuban style with heavy hands and a real good finishing ability.
yeah,
Very smart, very solid foundation. And then just to have that killer instinct is something that you see a lot of Cuban fighters nowadays have now, and he's part of that. He's someone that I think is going to be a problem and someone that might be avoided at 168.
yeah. I mean, what he's 12-0, 11 knockouts. He's an intimidating presence too. Like he's 6'2", and like he's not someone that tries to outbox you. Like he goes after you. And more times than not, he's found. I mean, he's only one guy's made it the distance with him. So I mean, he's going to be a problem for years to come at 168 pounds, I believe, or maybe
100%.
175.
I'm
All
excited
right,
for him, dude.
for
A
sure.
fight between Osleys and Diego Pacheco.
Yeah, down the
Oh
line
my
unification
gosh.
bout, probably that would be
Oh my
that
gosh.
would
I think
that would be
honestly,
huge.
those two are gonna be the heirs to
Yeah,
the
the next
throne.
wave. Yeah,
Yeah, they're gonna be the heirs to the throne. But yeah, so I guess number four is left. So who do I have at number four?
Edgar Berlanga.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Bro, he should be at number 10. He should be at number 10.
Oh man,
But
God, I
listen,
hope he
hey,
has a good showing against Canelo, but I'm not.
I think this is a great list.
Really?
Despite
Oh,
yes, I don't
thank you.
listen. Iglesias number one, Pacheco number two, Munguia number three. This the King of New York number four at this point. and Billy at 5.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think maybe you
granted,
could swap in Billy and Berlanga.
yeah, you can. I can definitely do that, but like,
Yeah.
I think the rankings beside that are like pretty
Yeah, this
fair.
it's not egregious, you didn't put Berlanga number 1, that would've been
I would
that'd have been quite the uproar.
take my boxing card if I did that.
Yeah, for real. And that would be the last episode of this podcast. I will be looking for a new co-host.
Yeah, no, you would have a new co-host tomorrow.
Yeah,
But listen,
that's
thank you,
fun.
because I'm not gonna
Yeah.
lie. I'm just glad you picked super middleweight because I picked a different division.
Oh, no.
I picked
Oh,
one where
no.
nobody fought over the weekend in this division. No one
Okay.
significant. All
Alright.
right. I picked junior welterweight.
Junior welterweight. Oh, boy. Here we
Yeah.
go. This is gonna be
So
interesting. Uh,
okay, and I'll tell you one name I didn't put on here.
okay.
Teofimo Lopez. Because he's the Ring Magazine champion.
That makes sense, yeah. So it's
So
kinda like the
like
same thing for me and Canelo at 168.
yeah, like if you're a Ring Magazine champion, I can't really
Yeah, like, you're
can't
the
really
top guy, where
yeah,
it's
you're the
kinda
top guy.
we're
But
ranking contenders, yeah.
all right,
Here we go.
we'll go with the first person, and he was undisputed at 140 at one point. I'm talking about Josh Taylor.
Oh, man. Where would I put Josh Taylor? I almost because he's lost back-to-back fights, I think I wanna put him number 5. Just because.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, no,
Oh
it's
my
just it's
god.
just bad.
No, no,
No,
no.
I
You
don't
already
know who
said it.
else
You
you
already
put.
said it.
Yeah,
No, no,
no,
you
I'll
already
put
said it.
him
You already
just
said
because,
it.
obviously, when he was at his peak, he's clearly, he was a real great fighter, but, he's on his way down, I feel like a lot of the top guys would probably just beat him now at this point in his career, but granted, I don't know who's next, so friggin' don't kill me, but I
Oh
got
my
a really
gosh.
bad feeling right now.
Well, the thing is, like Josh Taylor, the guys that he's lost to are all at the top of the
Yeah,
division. Jack
Catterall
Catterall
and
and
Teofimo.
Teofimo Lopez. Those are literally his last 3 fights. Catterall, Lopez, Catterall.
Yeah,
Top of
it's
the
just
division. And I think too, it's not just top competition, but it's also injuries. He's been
yeah,
very injury prone,
inactive.
very inactive, and very, susceptible to injury since becoming undisputed. So, I mean, it is what it is. I think that I don't know if Josh Taylor can rebound to be the top of the division, but I think he could be. I think he could rebound to get a few wins against a few guys
Mm,
in the top 10 of the Ring Magazine rankings. So,
yeah.
I mean, putting him at number 5 is kind of bold,
Oh,
especially because you're gonna hate your
oh my
list.
god,
You're gonna
alright.
hate your list because the next guy I have is Rolly Romero.
Oh, no.
Oh my
Golly,
gosh.
I did not consider, like, oh, golly. Okay, I need to get, like, just, like, one switch, can I
No,
swap
you
put him at
can't.
number
No,
5?
this is all blind
You know what
ranking,
the
bro.
worst part is? I was thinking about putting Josh Taylor number 4, and then, yeah,
Oh
I
my
guess I guess
gosh.
I got I guess I gotta put Rolly number 4. God.
Is he is he is he
I
a real
really
contender
okay,
too?
I don't think he's number 4. I think he would be, like, 12th on my top 5 list, but,
Oh, oh my gosh.
if
You
that,
want to know
you know.
something? He's one of the first world champions that I've seen that was not ranked in the top 10
Are you
of
sick? Oh,
his of his
by the
division
ring? Oh my
by the Ring
rightfully
magazine.
so. Oh my god.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. I think he's a great character. I just want
He's
to say that.
hilarious, yeah.
He's great and he's fighting actually next week. So I
He's
hope he
on
gets
under
a
the
win.
Canelo undercard. Oh, what
So
a
I hope he gets a win because having
for
Rolly
my sake,
Romero.
for my blind ranking sake.
Yeah, dude, you need a win. But like hopefully because I want to see him main event. Dude, just funny fights, funny pay-per-view fights. Like, dude, Rolly versus Ryan Garcia is gonna sell
Man,
over
I'm sure
500,000
he's
pay-per-view buys. That right there would be hilarious. I
the build
think
up to that would
skill
be,
wise, there's just something so awkward about him that I just
yeah.
can't gravitate towards.
He hits hard, that's what it is.
He hits
He's
hard, but
awkward
it's
and
like
he can,
he throws hard. I don't know if it's his power is not natural. It's something he works at, but it's just
yeah.
not lights out.
But
Like Barroso when he caught Rolly, that was natural power. That was
mhm,
grown man strength.
it looked what Isak
Rolly,
Cruz did to him.
oh my god. And Esau Cruz, I don't even want to talk about him.
Yeah, that was.
I think his power is overrated, but we're not gonna get on that. We're not gonna get on
Yeah,
that.
no.
But
Let's
you
get back
got
to this horrific
you got
list.
you got
Oh man.
you got. Oh yeah. So Josh Taylor number 5, Rolly Romero number 4. Next guy we have is Devin Haney,
Oh, jeez.
former WBC champion. Devin Haney.
I think I'm gonna put him number one just because I don't really hold that Ryan Garcia performance against him that
Hmm.
much. Gonna be using with the guy that intentionally missed weight and was on uh, tested positive for Osterine 3 times. So that's like I'll put him number one. I still view him as an undefeated fighter. Granted that Garcia performance wasn't great, but I think he can grow from it and get better. And yeah, I mean he wasn't. He had all the belts at 135. He had his performance against Prograis was super impressive. So yeah, I'll put him number one.
Yeah, I think I would agree with you. I think, I've been very high on Devin Haney even after this fight. I mean, he showed he had a lot of heart, especially getting
Yeah,
cracked 3 times or not getting knocked down 3 times. He showed he had a lot of heart. He kept fighting. My only thing is in his next fight, which is rumored to be Liam Paro, is his confidence. How confident is he after taking a beating like that and kind of like mentally in the
yeah,
build up of the fight, kind of losing that mental battle because once you lose after all that trash talk, you kind of you kind of eat your words. So I
yeah.
kind of want to see mentally because skill wise, he's a pure boxer.
Mhm.
Mentally, though, I need to see where he's at. But honestly, like with his resume and the performance that he's done, like fighting the best of the best each time since becoming undisputed, and even beforehand, fighting formidable contenders, I think his resume is one of the best out of the young guys.
Yeah.
So number one, I can see that. So the next guy I have on this list is Subriel Matias, the quote unquote boogeyman of the division at one point.
I'll go number three.
Number three,
Number three, yeah. Just the loss to Paro, that was definitely something that definitely derailed the hype train a little bit.
really,
Maybe,
really opened our eyes to
yeah,
his not his skill, but like what it takes to beat him.
yeah. But there's definitely like his footwork. He's a little slow, and yeah, and I
Slow
mean, he got
starter
out,
too,
he
man.
got he got thoroughly outboxed by Paro. Like dude, Paro went into Puerto Rico and didn't get robbed. Have any idea how
That's
definitively you need to beat someone to not get robbed in their home, on his home island?
and what's crazy is that Parle wasn't sitting down on any shots. He was just constantly
No, he
throwing.
just kept him turning, just kept punch and turn. He didn't
Yeah,
stay to get hit. And
and
when he
that
did get hit, he took him. He,
yeah,
he
and
was
I
able to
think
take the power.
I think the big thing about that is you saw a formula on how to beat
Yeah,
Matias because the thing is that Matias fights the same way in every single fight,
yeah,
and I don't think this loss is going to change his approach because that's just naturally how he fights and how where his mindset and kind of like where his skill set kind of caters to.
yeah.
So yeah, so you had him where?
3.
All right, so you have number 2 left, right?
Yep.
All right, and finally,
Oh, I got a bad feeling about this. I got a real
finally
bad
at
feeling about
number
this.
2, you have Adrien Broner.
Oh, there's no way. All right, this is diabolical. There is no way. He hasn't fought in 147 in how long? Oh my
140.
god, you did me so dirty. Dude, freaking, I gave you a weight class based off a fight that happened this weekend. I gave you 5 solid names to work with. And you give me Adrian Broner? Oh my goodness gracious. Oh my
Would you, bro? Last year he called out Rolly. He was calling out 140 pounders. So he was.
Oh, oh yeah, on that freaking Don King card that
He
you
was
watch and just
he called out
you.
world champion. He called out junior welterweights. He called out
Oh my
Rolly.
god, bro.
He was, bro. Oh my god.
Oh my
What do you think? What do you think about
I don't
Adrian
think
Broner?
anything. I don't think anything. His last fight was at 147. What is he doing on this list?
Solely because he called out Rolly for a title shot out junior welterweight.
Oh my
He
god,
gets
bro.
on, he gets on this list.
I can't believe how dirty I got done by this list.
Yo, Nate, I'm gonna tell you right now, even without Adrian Broner, This list was diabolical no matter what.
What do you mean? I didn't know Rolly.
You had
I didn't.
Josh
I
Taylor at 5. Rolly
didn't
at
know Rolly was next.
Rolly at 4. You had Super. You got Adrien Broner at 2.
It's a blind list. I don't know who's on it ahead of time.
Oh my gosh, dude.
I'm upset.
Wow, what a. We should
Don't
do these
even
more
text
often.
me after this.
we should do this more often.
No, we shouldn't.
Yeah, we should. This is great. But bro,
we're gonna have to write in my
as we
no blind rankings,
dude. As we draw closer to the end of this podcast, man.
Permanently, maybe.
Oh my gosh! As we draw closer to the end of this podcast, man, there's actually pretty much no high-profile fights this weekend.
Nope.
I mean,
we're on to Mexican.
The next weekend is Canelo and Berlanga, which I think we should do a thorough breakdown of that card.
Yeah,
because that card is stacked.
Yeah. Rolly, my number 4 junior welterweight's gonna be fighting on it. Oh my God.
Dude, I mean, not just your number 4 junior welterweight. Caleb Plant's going to be on there too. And then Danny Garcia versus Arslan Dilar, a fight that we were supposed to get like 3 years ago is now finally happening. Yeah. Should be interesting because Danny Garcia hasn't fought since losing to Earl. No, wait. Did he fight?
He beat Jose Benavidez.
That's right. He did. At middleweight, right? Or at junior middleweight.
Yeah.
So he's moving up to middleweight.
Yeah, I think it's at 150. It might be. I think I saw something
that
said 157. Yeah, it's 157 for a middleweight belt. Makes literally no sense whatsoever. But that's boxing for you.
You're closer to junior middleweight than okay, whatever. All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But and then obviously the main event, Canelo and Berlanga, King of New York versus King of ducking. But I think we should. I don't know when we're gonna do that preview. Maybe this week, maybe beginning of next week, but we're gonna do it. One fight I do want to shout out that's happening this weekend is over in Australia this Saturday, and it's for the WBA strawweight title between knockout CP Freshmart, who's the longest reigning world champion in boxing today. I think he's had his belt since 2016, so he's the longest reigning world champion, and he's fighting Australian Alex Winwood, who is trying to break a record, becoming one of the fastest Australian boxer to become world champion. He's 4-0 right now, looking to win a world title in his 5th pro fight. Wow. It's going to be interesting. I mean, if you have a VPN, I'd watch that fight, but don't do it illegally because you probably get a virus. I kid you not, because trying to find an Australian fight on an app is going to be crazy. Yeah. But that is all the time we have for today's podcast. Thank you guys for watching. This one was great. I mean, we talked about everything. Nate, before we go, do you have a message for everybody out there?
Just know that I don't think Adrien Broner is second in my rankings, nor Rolly is 4th. I can't believe the audacity of you, Alyas. I really can't. I'm never doing another blind ranking ever again. Thanks for watching, and we'll break down the Canelo and Berlanga fight, and hope maybe we'll find a path to victory for Berlanga. Hopefully that doesn't involve biting or bringing a weapon into the ring.
Next podcast, we're doing straight blind rankings. No talking, just straight blind rankings.
Rank the cruiserweights.
Oh my gosh. I'm going to bring out some crazy names there.
Oh my God.
Nah, but thank you guys for watching the Split Decision podcast. I'm Alyas Blanco. That's my brother, Nate Marrero. Thank you guys for watching. We are out.